This session is part of the Indie Author Fringe Conference, a 3 times a year author conference fringed to the major publishing fairs London Book Fair, Book Expo America and Frankfurt Book Fair. The Indie Author Fringe is run under the stewardship of the Alliance of Independent Authors, is organised by writers for writers and is free to attend. Let's see who's sharing self-publishing insights in this session.
Hello everybody, fabulous to see so many of you here. Sorry to have my back kind of to some of you. We're delighted. I'm Orna Ross, Director of the Alliance of Independent Authors, and the London Book Fair Author HQ always very kindly allows us to have a session for you every year. And I'm here today with Joanna Penn, who many of you know very well, best-selling author and also incredible resource for all of us who want to reach more readers and sell more books. She is the acknowledged indie author expert on all of that. To her left we have Adam Croft, who has been one of the hit sensations of the last year or two. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say. And to his left we have Mr. Gabriel Mercer, who is a digital strategist, and for those of you who don't know what that is, he's going to explain it all in words of one syllable. And we will get started actually just talking to you, Adam. So 2015 was kind of when things began to change a little bit for you. So you've just had, in 2017, your latest book is now a million seller. You talk on your website about deposing a certain Miss Rowling from her throne on various occasions in Canada, and again more recently here in the UK and US. So talk to me a little bit about, you said to me, and this is why we asked you to come along and talk today, things changed for you when you got serious. Something changed in your mindset. Can you tell us about that?
Here we go. I started writing and publishing about 6-7 years ago, and I had some early success, but in those days it was I wouldn't say very easy, it was a lot easier to just kind of get lucky with things, and I really didn't know how it worked. But it got me really thinking about how I could perhaps replicate that, and I saw the potential of what could be done with a kind of a marketing mindset and a business mindset behind writing. So I spent pretty much the next 5 years trying to work out how this works, how I can replicate it. And generally speaking, it was a case of changing my mindset and realising that rather than just being a writer, I also I'm a business person as well. You have to be an entrepreneur, especially if you want to do it on a self-publishing direction. And I think where things changed for me was when I discovered Facebook advertising. I did Mark Dawson's course, and that gave me a big boost. I tried it with my 2 main series. Everyone says writing a series, that's what's going to work. I had a book which had been bubbling away for it was mostly written. It had been sitting in a drawer for about 6 months unfinished. And as I was doing a bit more experimentation with marketing and realising that having a hook and something to really grab people's attention was one of the things that was going to make people sit up and take notice. Because that's the first thing you've got to do is grab people's attention. There's so many books out there, and if you're marketing in a way which is, you're not on Amazon, but you're on Facebook or something where people aren't looking to buy books, you've really got to grab their attention. And I remembered this book that I'd mostly written and left, and got that finished, and fired some Facebook adverts towards that, and realised very quickly the potential that was there, and started seeing a return fairly quickly. So, yeah, I mean, I don't think I would have done that, and there's no way I would have done that course or looked that heavily into the marketing if I hadn't developed that mindset that I'm not just writing and putting things out there, but I've got to spend probably at least 50% of my time on the marketing and promotion and on running it as a business.
You've just answered one of the questions I was going to ask you, which was how much time do you spend? So roughly half of your working life is spent on reaching readers as opposed to writing books.
Yeah, I mean, I personally do less of that now because my wife now works with me full time, and she takes care of a lot of the business and the marketing side of things.
Another indie spouse. Hey.
Yes, yeah. We've got a 4-week-old now as well, so we're bringing up the next generation. I'll have him in, hoovering the office before too long. So.
Very good. Okay, and just finally, was there something that triggered that mindset change?
I'm not sure. I think it was something that was there, but I hadn't pieced them together. I've run businesses beforehand, and I kind of had that entrepreneurial mindset, and I've been involved in internet marketing before as well, but I'd never actually pieced it together that those kind of previous skills could be used together with what I was doing now. And I think once I'd realised that bringing them together was what was needed, that's where my mindset changed.
And do you think that mindset change is essential for all authors?
Well, if you're looking to publish yourself, definitely, yeah. Absolutely. And I think to a large extent, even if you're looking to get published traditionally as well, because publishers are doing less and less of the promotional side of things, it can be very difficult sometimes to get your voice heard in that way. And a lot of publishers will still encourage, at the very least, that you do your own kind of social media and build your own platform. So I think you certainly got to have that mindset. I mean, I think people that are here certainly are not here because they just want to write, but they want to write for a living. They want to make a career out of it. And to do that, you've got to earn money from it.
So that's lesson number 1, folks. If you are interested in reaching more readers and selling more books, you need to develop a business mindset and business skills. So next up we have Joanna, and normally, here in Author HQ that we talk a lot on panels, but Joanna has very kindly put together a very fast-paced, it is Joanna after all, presentation of what she has done and what she has seen work for herself and for the many authors whom she has helped to success.
Fantastic, because Adam sold like 1 million books last year, and we can't all do that. So this presentation will be kind of rapid fire things you can do to reach more readers and make more money from your books. So I hope you're excited. So the slides are going to be there. You obviously can't all see it, but I've also put a download at thecreativepen.com/LBF17, so you can get the slides. Okay.
First lesson, whenever you're talking to a group of people, make sure you give them your website.
Okay, so let's go. The first thing to remember is that it is not one book. The problem with authors is they so often think, I finished a book. It's a book. It's not one product. It's actually multiple products. And as indies, we can do this ourselves. So first of all, ebook, print book, audiobook. We can do all these as indies now. And many of us do all of these very successfully. So many people think, you publish online, you just do an ebook. But no, you definitely want to be doing print and audio as well if your business gets to that point. But at least do ebook and print. So at first, it's not just one ebook format either, it's more. We're going to come to that in a minute. But if you have non-fiction, so who writes non-fiction? Here's a little tip for you guys. One print book doesn't need to be one print book. So both Orna and I have workbooks. You can turn a non-fiction print book into a workbook that you can then have at your events. You can sell it on Amazon as another product. And it cost me about £40 to turn my print book into a workbook, and it adds another income stream. And multiple streams of income is what it's all about at this level. You can also expand your book into a course, and many of us now sell courses, or a full-day event like Orna and I are doing in May, and there's some leaflets around about that. So you can turn your knowledge into these multiple streams of income. Then coming back to ebooks, you don't just need to sell on the wonderful Amazon. Obviously, Amazon changed all of our lives with the Kindle, but this is my graph. Those of you who can't see it, 51% of my book sales income is from Amazon KDP. That's a lot smaller chunk than a lot of big publishers, actually. But I make 14% from iBooks, 13% from Kobo, 10% from CreateSpace, and then a whole load of other smaller ones. So if you have enough books to make it worthwhile, you can go wide, and that means your ebook is also multiple streams of income, which can be very exciting. You can also sell in multiple countries because, believe it or not, the UK is not the centre of the book sales universe. There are 300 million readers waiting for your book in America, which is pretty exciting. And of course, with the pound dropping at the moment, making money in US dollars is a good idea. So this is my graph again, if you can't see that. 46% of my book sales income comes from America. 20% from Canada, 22% UK, 7% Australia, and then a whole load of other countries. In fact, this is my Kobo Writing Life map. I've sold books in English in 83 countries. There are many traditionally published authors who have not sold books in 83 countries. So that's pretty cool, right? That you can reach readers all over the world with your words through these multiple sites. Including places like Namibia, which I really love. I think it's cool to have a readership there. There are English speakers all over the world, so there are actually 125 million English speakers, educated English speakers in India. And of course, Amazon's expanded into India. There's many different opportunities in India. So don't just think your book in English will only sell in like US, UK. The UK has 63 million, so it's actually a lot smaller market than some of these other places. So make sure your book is available. And if you have sold your rights, or some of your rights, to a traditional publisher, consider self-publishing in these other markets. So if you haven't sold Canada, then why don't you self-publish in Canada, for example? If you've only sold UK Commonwealth, then self-publish in America. Do you see how you can actually do this now? You are empowered as the creator to license your rights to whoever you like and to self-publish elsewhere. So that's pretty exciting, right? That you can do that. You can reach these markets. Okay, more tips. Go short. So many people, because of the traditional publishing industry's obsession with spine size in physical bookstores, assume that a book has to be a certain size. But it actually doesn't. With digital and online sales, readers are less sensitive about the size of the book. So here's two examples of authors who've made seven-figure income from short books. Steve Scott, or S.J. Scott, in the non-fiction space, and Holly Ward, H.M. Ward, in the fiction space, who's recently been on the Self-Publishing Formula podcast talking about that, which is awesome. So these are authors who have put out short books under 40,000 words, and have, for $2.99, making $2 a book profit on that, and have made a very good living. So those of you who are authors here, who has novellas now? Who is doing short works? Yeah, so quite a lot of people. And it's a really good way. One, it's quicker to write. You can write 30,000 words in a lot shorter time than you can 90,000. And two, it can keep things going. And you'll have seen even authors like Lee Child with the Jack Reacher books putting out novellas now. So this is something traditional publishing has got into as well. So go short. Write more books. So there is a myth in publishing that you write your first novel and you make $1 million and you can retire. That's it. That's actually not the reality of most of our lives. Adam is a bit of an outlier with one particular book that went nuts, but Adam also has other books too. And these are Joseph Alexander, who was here yesterday. Don't know if he's here today, but he has a guitar series doing very well. I've put myself up there, and the lovely Mark Dawson. We all have a business because we have multiple products. If you went into a pie store and there was only one pie, it wouldn't be a very good store. So you've got to think about this as a long-term business as a writer. It's not just about one book. And of course, the more books you have, the more money you make, the more choice you have around publishing. Next one, go long. Okay, so box sets, this is kind of the opposite. So something like 87% of my book sales income at Kobo and iBooks is box sets. So box sets, digital box sets, are essentially bundles of books that you sell at a discount, and the readers love it. So instead of, and I've put up there several of my boxes of 3, but also a box of 8 that they recently did a promo at iBooks on. So for 8, you get 8 thrillers. And I think the full price was around £25, that reduced to $9.99. Great deal, right? So you sell all of these books, and you might think, oh, well, I'm taking a cut on that. But that's a reader. If a reader reads 8 of your books in a weekend, like a binge, do they love your books? Are they a fan? Yes, they are. And also, you've got more money from that one customer. So that's awesome. If you are not doing bundles like this and you're self-publishing, you're missing out on serious money. So really important. And on sites like Kobo and iBooks, the bundling can be some of your biggest promotional deals. So just a recommendation there. It's best if you have 3 books either in a series, fiction or non-fiction, or 3 that will suit a similar audience. So if you're literary fiction, then they have to be related in some way. Okay, and it's also easier to hit the bestseller list when it's a bargain. So last August, I hit the USA Today list with one of my own box sets, and before that, hit the New York Times with some other authors. So this is the type of thing you can do with promotion that we'll be talking about that will enable you to hit some of the bestseller lists. Okay. I know we're going fast, but this is the fun. Write books that people want. I know, it's shocking, isn't it? Really is. But basically, by search terms. So this is an example of the Amazon Kindle Store's search terms. I just put in how to be a D, and those of you who can't see it, starts with how to be a dominant. I haven't actually written that book, but maybe some of you would like to. How to be a demonologist. But my example, my first book, was called How to Love Your Job or Find a New One, which was not exactly a catchy title. When I did some keyword research and changed the book title to Career Change, it sold a lot more books. And that because people are searching for career change in the store. So you can, and also remember, as an indie, you can change your book titles, you can change your covers, you can do whatever you like and rebrand later on. So writing books that people want by search term, particularly useful for non-fiction authors. Write books that people want by genre. I'm sorry to tell you, poets, that poetry is not one of the biggest selling genres. It's for the love of the craft. But if you go to authorearnings.com, if you guys don't know authorearnings.com, definitely go there and have a look at the data. But essentially, they found that on the Amazon top 50,000 ebooks, 69% of that is genre fiction. So that's mysteries, thrillers, romance, sci-fi, fantasy. These are the biggest selling genres for indies as well. And actually, if you look at the Forbes top selling authors in the world, they're pretty much all genre fiction. Okay, so rebrand and relaunch. Many of you already have books, right? And you're like, they're not selling well enough. Well, this is some examples of my own first attempts, and the original titles and covers and the new titles and covers. So again, many of you can't see it, but basically my original books were Pentecost, Prophecy, and Exodus. I have a master's in theology and a bit of an obsession with Dan Brown. And now they're rebranded as Stone of Fire, Crypt of Bone, Ark of Blood, and that's my Arcane series. Now, I retitled them, I changed my author name, I changed the covers, I pretty much changed everything except the story. And it sells more through the rebranding. So that's something to do, very important. If you start as an indie, you will make choices that later you might want to change. And that's fine, that's how we all learn. Get started. Okay, write a branded series is the next tip. The big names do this. James Patterson, you'll see, has loads of them in his verticals. Janet Ivanovic there, Chicken Soup for the Soul. These are big brands. And again, if you're writing books for the same type of market, you're going to sell more books. And again, you can also put them in box sets and bundles. So writing a branded series means that the covers should look similar, so that people know that this is the type of book they're getting, and they're like, oh, it's another one of those books. You guys have seen that with traditional publishing. Well, that's what you need to do as an indie. And then finally, you can do all of that, and you still need to do some kind of marketing because, there are lots of books out there. I mean, you can see that at the book fair, right? It's in one way really exciting and another way really depressing to see how many books are out there. So you have to do some kind of marketing, but it depends on you as to what that is. So for example, I have a podcast. Some of you are podcasters. Orna, I've put there Orna's blog. Orna blogs, I blog. You don't need to blog, but we do. You can use Facebook ads. You can use Amazon Marketing Services or BookBub or KDP Select. There are a lot of marketing options, and we'll be talking a bit about that next. But the point is, you have to do something. Don't be one of those authors who comes up to one of us and says, oh, hey, my book's been out for like 6 months and I've sold nothing. And we're like, so what have you done to try and get some notice on it? And you say, nothing, I just uploaded it to Amazon. That's not going to be enough anymore. So those are just quick fire things that you can do to reach more readers and sell more books. And as I said, you can download the slides at thecreativepen.com/LBF17, and there's also a whole load of other things on that page, webinars and our day together and stuff. So there you go. Over to Gabriel.
Over to Gabriel. And Gabriel is an author coach as well as being a digital strategist. He's a marketing consultant, and he has a lot of experience in these areas in his past life. New York, you know, busy, and then he moved to Florida because he too is a writer, and has helped a number of writers to understand the arcane world of digital marketing. So over to you.
Fantastic, thank you. How many people here are currently building their mailing list as a part of their marketing strategy? Just hands up so I know. Yeah, you probably hear it all the time, right? So whether you're traditional or you're indie, your mailing list is going to be the number one tactic that any digital marketer is going to tell you to work on. So I'm going to start there, and if anybody's not currently building a list, I'm also going to go ahead and just give you an idea how you can get started right now. So the very first place that you want to start working on building a connection with your readership is in your books themselves, right? So if you're self-publishing a book, whether it's in the front matter, which is where I typically recommend it, or in the back matter, you want to have something that entices readers to then join your mailing list and stay connected with you. And as we all know, as we probably advertised on Facebook or tried AMS or any of the other marketing tactics that have come up, they're all getting progressively more expensive as traditional marketing starts to enter the fray. Your mailing list is the one thing that you will always own, that you have a direct connection with your readers on, and that you can never, ever be, well, you can never be disrupted there, right? So your message is perfectly clear from one end to the other end. Now, everybody here has at least one book in their catalog, correct? Hands up if you do not have a book published yet. It should be everybody at this point. No books published yet. Okay, so when you guys do publish your first book, please be sure there is a link or an opt-in at either the front or the back of your book to sign up for your mailing list. This is 101 stuff. Now, when they're on your mailing list, this is where we can talk about some advanced segmentation tactics, right? Once you get somebody into the fold and you have a direct connection with them, how often does anyone in this room check their email address? Hands up if you check it at least once a day. What about once an hour? Yeah, there's some people out there. So if you want the fastest way to get a hold of your readers and let them know what you're doing, email is always going to be it. Always. And that's going to last for the next probably 5 to 10 years before something really, really big disrupts it. But for the time being, email is it, right? Every hour, some people are in there looking for messages from you. Now, the key is to stay relevant and to always bring value every time you're in that inbox, right? If you're an author, most people are going to email every time they what? They have a new book out, right? Every time they have a release. How many people are only emailing their list when they have a new release? Hands up. How many people are emailing them at least once a quarter? Once a quarter? How many people are emailing once a month? There we go. And is anybody mailing once a week? Maybe. Maybe. So, of the people that are emailing less than once a week or even once a month, do you have a fear that maybe you're going to wear out your welcome, that you have nothing to say to them? Yeah? Hands up if there's a worry about that. Okay. So, I think what we need to keep in mind is that no matter how somebody comes to you, if they've done the job of trading their email address, which is, again, this is the number one way that they're communicating with people, to you in order to get information. They want to hear from you. If they don't answer, or if they're not clicking, it's more likely that what you're sending them isn't relevant, or life just got in the way. Because I think we can all relate to this. How many people in this room answer every single email they get every time? Yeah, no, nobody. So when you send out an email, whether it's monthly, weekly, quarterly even, and you're not getting the engagement that you like, it's simply because people are busy. right? That doesn't necessarily mean they don't want to hear from you. It just means they're busy. And this is the classic thing that authors use as justification for not emailing their list more often. So what I would like to see is, ideally, if you're on a quarterly frequency, bump that up. Get up to monthly, right? Have something to say. If you're already emailing monthly, try and get up to at least a bi-weekly send, so every fortnight. If you're one of those people that are emailing weekly, just make sure you do it consistently. So that's the key, right? Consistently choose the same day, the same time. And if I'm going to give you the exact time and day to send, it's going to be Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday at 10:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time in the U.S. I'm not sure what that is. If we do the conversion.
3:30.
Yeah.
3:30.
No, morning back.
No, we're ahead of America.
Yeah, so it's earlier.
Anyway.
So that's the optimal email send time for anybody who's looking to reach people in their inbox, right? You want to be right in there in the morning when they go to open things up, first thing, and just enough time has passed where they can clear out anything that might be junk. They might have even been in there for an hour or so, and then you hit them and they're going to see your message first. Okay, so for people who are emailing infrequently, try and step that up a little bit. Now let's talk for just a brief moment about content. Now, I know a lot of you are worried about the kinds of messages that you might be sending folks, right? And you think as an author, the only time you had to communicate with them is if you have something new out, which is perfectly fine. I think that that's a valid reason to talk to somebody. However, there's a lot of things happening. If you are a nonfiction author, there's a ton of stuff happening around your topic area that you can talk about, right? It doesn't have to be related to your book. It can be anything related to the subjects that you write about. If you're a genre fiction author or just a fiction author, there are other people's books in the genre that you can talk about that your readers want to read, right? There is no competition. It's only co-opetition. You can talk successfully about another book in the genre that's coming out, and that's still very valuable to your audience, right? Always providing value. And what that will do is when you send them information, when they think about who referred that book, they're going to think of you. They're not going to think of the author. They're not going to think of the title. If they actually bother to go and read it, which sometimes happens, sometimes doesn't, you get credit for that. So that's a good way for you to always be relevant, for you to always be on top of what's happening in your industry. The other thing that you can do is you can actually talk at length over the course of a month, over several weeks, about releases that happen. So as an author, I know I personally read a lot of books, right? I'm always reading. In my genre, I'm always reading nonfiction that I probably shouldn't be, but I'm always reading it. You can talk to your audience one-on-one through your emails about the things that you're reading, right? So if you were to set up a 4-week schedule so that you were making sure that you were talking to them every week in an entire month, the very first email of the month could just be about, hey, this is the book that we're going to be reading this month, almost like a book club. This is the kinds of things that we're going to be talking about. The second week is your spoiler-free review, right? You're not giving anything away. You're just talking generally about your opinion of the book and who it might be good for. Week 3, you can have almost a wild card, right? You can bring something completely different in. You can talk about your book or how it relates to your creative process. You can talk a little bit about how you were inspired by this book. Just anything you want in that 3rd week that ties back to this book that you're reading. And then the 4th week is the spoiler full review, right? You're going to spoil everything because by this point, everybody should have read it and knows what's going on. And then you introduce the next book for the next month. And you can just keep emailing like that throughout the entire year. There will not be a single email in that series that will not get opened, clicked, and read every time. And again, this is for fiction authors. Nonfiction is a little bit different. We can go into that a little bit later if we need to. But I think there's a small enough percentage of the audience that we'll skip it for now. So the last piece that I want to talk about is email segmentation. Most people worry about something called source attribution when they're building their email list, which is where a reader comes from and how they end up on your list. Did they opt in for a free book? Did they sign up organically? Right? How did this person get to me? And the big debate right now is whether or not an organic sign up is worth more than somebody who came in from someplace, say, like InstaFreebie and downloaded a free book, right? This is a big deal, and everybody is tracking this. What I'm going to tell you is, it's good to have that data, but don't use that to future cast behavior. So everybody that comes into your list, regardless of how they got there, is going to operate differently as an individual, right? Don't bucket people according to where they came in. There is no reason that somebody who opted in for a free book may not go and buy that book from you at some point. Sure, they may buy it when it's on sale, they may do it just to support you. There's tons of reasons why they might do it. There's also reasons why somebody who buys a book from you may never buy another book from you again. It happens all the time. So don't use source attribution to determine who you send promotions to. You really want to try at all times not to bucket people that way. Here's how you will bucket people, right? When they come into your list, they get flagged, right? InstaFreebie's one way, Organic's one way. Some people come in off Facebook ads, it doesn't matter. That all goes into one big pool. The very, very, very basic way that you segment people is by asking them to then opt in again. I know that sounds crazy, right? You can do this in other ways with links and tags through some higher end service providers like ConvertKit. You can't do it through MailChimp or Aweber or some of the lower end providers. However, if you have the opportunity, you just ask them to opt in again, they'll give you another email address, and now they get tagged differently because of an action that they took. So if they're in one series, or they've been following one product, and you're a nonfiction author, what you want to get them to do is raise their hand and say, I am also interested in this. And the way that you do that is you get them to opt in again. It's very simple. No one will have a problem with this. They completely understand, and it's a very clean break. So all they have to do is go and put their name and email in again, and then they raise their hand. And now you know that you can send that person messages differently than the rest of the bucket, right? And it has nothing to do with where they came from. It's purely what they say that they're interested in. So you have one series, and you promote another, and you say, hey, come over here and check out this. And if they do, now you can promote to them on both of those runs of books, right? And you can do that again and again and again. The best way to do this is with free content. Obviously, you can do it with discounted books, but if you have a blog or you have some kind of top of funnel information that you're using to attract readers to your books, you don't want to be selling them all the time. You want to be showing them, hey, this is a creative journal I wrote about my process, or hey, over here is a write-up I did on someone else's bestseller that I really loved, like Adam's book. And once they've done that, well, now you know that person is potentially a thriller reader, right? They've raised their hand because now they're going to opt in, and they're going to push further down the funnel. You can now send them messages about thriller books that you want to advertise to them if you're a thriller writer, right? If you are not a thriller writer, don't show them thriller books. Show them other things that are related to your series. What you want is as many entry points to get down to your products as possible without constantly spamming, buy my book, buy my book, buy my book, right? So give them the opportunity to raise their hand, and then you can talk to them in a way that makes sense. And I think I'm also supposed to talk video.
Yeah. I think we'll probably just take questions now because we don't have a lot of time left. I know that there are people who are interested in the whole idea of segmentation. You spoke about some services that allow a different level of segmentation and so on. Can you just, before we take the audience questions, just explain a little bit more about why one might want to do that and how one does that and what those services are?
Absolutely. So a couple of the big players in the space right now that you'll want to look at, if you want to go beyond, say, MailChimp or Aweber or GetResponse, there are two in particular that we use most frequently. One is ActiveCampaign. And an ActiveCampaign is a very cost-effective alternative to something like Infusionsoft, which allows you all of the tagging functionality that you'd find in something that is, $400 a month, but is, I think, at the base level, $9. So it's a very robust tool. It offers a lot of functionality, and it's fantastically priced. The other player in the space that's really, really big right now is ConvertKit. Huge player, right? Nathan and his team have done a ConvertKit. Nathan and his team have done a really good job putting that tool together, and I know they're constantly iterating and optimizing. I haven't seen anyone do a better job of taking care of their people, and they will migrate you for free if you contact their support team. So they're a fantastic tool as well. And either one of those will allow you to do the tagging and the advanced segmentation that I talked about.
And can you just give a one-sentence explanation of why do all of this? It sounds like a lot of trouble. Why are you actually doing this?
So whenever possible in marketing, you want to be talking to people as if they're human beings, right? One-to-one, like you're having a conversation. The more information you can build around a particular person, which in this case our identifier is an email address, and we treat each of those people as close to one-to-one as we can get, the higher your conversions are going to jump on the back end, right? And it's just being human, right? And having conversations.
So you do all this clicking and tagging to be human. Okay. Questions? And nobody has any questions. Okay, we go home.
Hi, that's really fascinating and interesting. I'm actually traditionally published. Last year I had my debut novel, but I'm really interested in the idea of like doing making my own effort on top and doing as much as I possibly can. I think it was you, Joanna, that told the story about how some very successful authors historically put their advance towards pushing the books themselves. But I was wondering, as a bit of a little question, but is there anywhere that you can buy a list of a database of people that might be interested?
There is, and you shouldn't ever do it. Yeah. The general rule of thumb is that if you have to buy your list, whoever is selling you those names did not get permission, and as soon as you go to email them, it's going to be bad news. So yeah, I wouldn't recommend it.
But the difference being that we all buy promotions on things like BookBub, which they have the list, so they serve the book to their list, and a percentage of them will buy your book. So that's what we all try and do as much as possible, is get these other services that have the list, or Amazon marketing services. They have a list.
They have the list.
And so you are paying to access their database, but you don't get them yourself unless you have a sign up in your book that will actually have that in. So for example, when I did a free promotion last year on that box set, I got 1,500 new people signed up to my email list who had downloaded the book for free and then signed up to my list. So yes, you can pay for access, but you shouldn't pay for an actual list.
The point is you have to have permission, or else it's illegal, in fact. Yeah. Another question. This lady here in the front in the green.
Hi. I just wanted to talk a little bit about the whole sort of Insta-freebie and books. It's been kind of an explosion. But what I've discovered is that when I had an organic list, I got no unsubscribes. When I have an Insta-freebie list, just in the first mailing, I will get a lot of unsubscribes, which then affects your mailing. Like with MailChimp, I'm now actually looking for another provider because of that thing. Do you have any advice on that? I mean, should I not be using Insta? I mean, I actually stopped doing it because I don't want to have that level of unsubscribe, because, do you have experience of what's going on in that respect?
Put some numbers around that when you say unsubscribes.
Well,
as a percentage.
As a percentage? Well, I mean, it's not been at the point where they've, I've got, you had on one campaign, maybe you had a certain percentage. But, if you've got, I have segmented lists. So, if I've got 1,500 on one list and I have, a certain amount of unsubscribes, like 9% unsubscribes, that's higher than, say, I have another list which is only 150. And so it's my smaller list that I've tended to have the flags on, because obviously the more of them. So I think the highest I had on one campaign was something like 30 unsubscribes on a 1,500 list. But then you end up getting flagged up MailChimp. I mean,
yeah, it's very negligible though. As your list grows, what you're going to find is that all of your metrics start to drop. So you find this when people cross certain thresholds, right? So when you first cross 5,000 or 10,000, you watch all your metrics drop. When you pass 20,000, you're going to watch them drop again. So your unsubscribes and your complaint rate is going to come up. The industry standard is as long as you're hovering around anywhere from 1 to 3%, you're still okay.
But it's higher than that since
Sorry,
then.
we're going to take another question. Yeah. Can we take someone over here? We had a questioner here. No, gone. Okay. Question answered. Anybody else got a question? No.
Hi. Can I ask about MailChimp? A lot of authors are concerned about the need to have an address. Is there a way around that? Because sometimes they use different mailing lists because of that.
Yeah, a P.O. box or a mailbox
Is that the best
will,
thing to
is the
do?
easiest way. You have to have some
You have
physical
to have
address
one.
to be compliant,
Yeah.
yes.
And every email
Yeah.
provider is the same. This lady down. Oh, hi. Sorry, this lady down the back. Can we send the mic down as quickly as possible? Thank you.
My question's about mindset. So what caused the mindset shift? Was it the question I'd sort of initially phrased it as, did the seriousness come before the money, or did the money come before the seriousness, in terms of the change in the mindset?
Do you mean, how do you mean the money coming before the
Meaning,
seriousness?
was it the money coming in that made you serious about what you're doing, or was it the seriousness that led to the money?
Well, unless you have that seriousness, you won't have any significant money coming in anyway. I mean, you will sell books, but if you want to make a serious go of it, then yeah, you've got to develop that serious mindset first. And I think seeing some early success, and I'll use the word some, is what opened my eyes to what might be possible and got me looking into it further. So I think probably seriousness needs to come first.
Okay, thank you. We've time for one more question, I think. Sorry?
Oh, sorry.
This lady here, and then we get over to you. Sorry. I knew you were there somewhere.
Adam, it's an amazing
Oh,
achievement.
sorry, no.
Sorry,
We're
it's
sorry, we
amazing.
take it over here.
Oh.
You've already had a
I
question.
was just wondering what his secret was, whether he had one sort of piece of advice.
No, sorry. One question per
Lots of
person.
hard work.
Yeah.
There is no secret. 16-hour days.
This lady here. Yeah.
About rebranding, I mean, what happens if somebody has read the book and then they buy it again because it's a new cover and title? I mean, what do you do about that?
Yeah, the question is, if you rebrand and retitle, what if the same people buy it again? It's not an issue if you use like digital publishing, because if you upload new files, if you try and buy it again, it will say you've bought this before. So you don't need a new ISBN if you change covers or even title or even author name. The content has to be significantly different to have a new ISBN, and I didn't use ISBNs until quite recently anyway, so it doesn't even matter. So many traditional publishers rebrand. You've seen new covers on all author books, right? That's industry standard, so yeah, it's not a problem.
Okay. Any more questions? This lady here.
Hi, thank you. You talked about the weekly newsletters, and I was just wondering your strategy for sort of having new themes or new ideas, talking about a book, and the next time talking a little bit deeper about something else in another book. Does that actually work, or what sort of gets the readers in on a weekly newsletter to respond and keep sort of reading? And I was just thinking about that because I send weekly newsletters, and I sometimes do struggle to kind of be creative and think what's next in terms of getting them to continue.
Yeah, I mean, I think the trouble that most people have is that when they think about their list or they think about a group of readers, it's almost like sitting up here and talking to a group of people, right? But it's not. You want as much as possible to be communicating with your readers one-on-one, right? As if you're recommending a book to a really good friend. If you would sit there and tell a story at a coffee shop to somebody that you're sitting across from, that's probably great content for your newsletter, as long as, again, you've done the trouble of making sure that the person across from you is interested in that.
Can we ask our other two authors, what do you put in your newsletters as authors now, not your any...
Well, I was just going to say, don't underestimate how much people want to hear about you as well. It doesn't have to just be about your books. In fact, some of the emails of mine that get most responses don't mention my books at all. I'm not quite sure what to read into that, but yeah, don't underestimate the fact that they're interested in you as a person and what you're doing, what you've been up to in your life as well.
Joanna, as JF Penn,
Yeah.
what do you tend to write about?
As my fiction, well, the first bit in mine is always pictures of like where I've been. Like, you might think your life is boring, but if there's an American reader who's never seen that flower in your garden or walked down your street, like, there are things that are interesting in your world to your readers. So I always share personal pictures, like of my travels or whatever, and then I will share books I'm reading, book recommendations. I'll share stuff about my research. So all of my books have a lot of research, and people are just interested. It's a kind of behind the scenes information. But I don't email every week. I email randomly every like 6 weeks. But with my non-fiction, I include useful information to the audience. So non-fiction's much easier. Fiction, just focus on your story.
Okay, we've time for one final question. Make it a good one. Pressure.
Hello, I started off writing non-fiction and used my own author name because I'm a specialist in a particular subject. Now I've moved on to fiction and I've used a pen name. Do you all have a view about pen names? Because I've also started a different genre and I've got another name and I'm ending up with about 4 names and I can't work out what the best thing is to do.
Yeah, well, I have several names. I do non-fiction as Joanna Penn, fiction as JF Penn. I have a new name coming out later this year. And yes, the book to read about this, which is really interesting, is The Six-Figure Author by Chris Fox. And I think this is one of the biggest reasons to have a different name per genre. It's about big data, AI, data intelligence, where the algorithms recommend similar books that the readers like. So if you write sweet romance with one name and thriller with another name, which is what I'll end up with soon, you don't want the same readers. And if you advertise and serve things to different audiences, the algorithm will learn the people associated with your author name. So you don't need, that doesn't mean you need to have websites, email lists, a whole load of other things, unless you're going to make a big deal of that. I am going to have that, and it is quite a lot of setup, but I think even just with publishing on Amazon, it's a really good recommendation. And publishers have always done author names and brands, so if your audience is significantly different, it's worth it. So if you write children's books and erotica, definitely have different names. So yes, I think it's going to become increasingly important.
Okay, folks, we're going to have to leave it there. So just want to say thank you to a fabulous panel. I wish we had longer, and if any of you are interested in delving down deeper into this, Joanna and I will be doing a day later in the year, a full day devoted to some of the topics here and others about how to reach readers and sell more books. Thank you, Joanna. Thank you, Adam.
Thank you, Anna.
Thank you, Gabriel. And also, just to say, you are all invited to join the Alliance of Independent Authors. We would love to have you. Thank you.
You've been listening to another great session brought to you by the Indie Author Fringe and the Alliance of Independent Authors, ALLI. You can find out more about both by visiting ALLI's Self-Publishing Advice Centre, www.selfpublishingadvice.org. Now, go write and publish.